Okay, great. Welcome everybody to our latest entrepreneurship event, the Self-Check Am I Ready discussion. So we're excited for the conversation this evening. Thankful to those of you who have chosen to spend your time with us, and really excited to share our knowledge in the community and keep building out this great initiative that SHIP has had going on. And thank you again for taking the time. So for those of you I haven't met before, my name is Ruben Mercado. I'm a program manager here at SHIP with the national office, and I'll be in the chat just moderating, answering questions. We like for these to be really interactive, so any questions that you do have, we'll make sure to get to, and I'll be helping keep track of that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our moderator this evening facilitating the discussion is Melissa Villegas Drake, who is an engineer turned educator with 15 years of experience in STEM, space operations, and tech leadership. She's a former SHIP national president and star teacher of the year, and champions girls and women in tech through Tech Women AZ, Google Women Tech Makers, and robotics programs. She also presently serves on the SHIP National Board of Directors and Coding for Color Board, and is currently launching a new nonprofit, Tech Women in Arizona. So, Melissa, thank you for moderating tonight, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. So before we jump into the program, I'd like to share a few tips. And Ruben, you can go to the next slide. So we encourage you to engage in the chat throughout the session. Feel free to share comments, resources, and reactions. And if you're comfortable, turn your camera on. It helps to create more engaging, connected experience for everyone. Please keep your microphone muted unless you're speaking. For questions, we encourage you to use the Q&A feature. You can also upvote questions from other participants that you'd like to hear answered. During the Q&A session later, you will also be welcome to unmute and ask your questions directly. Finally, please take a few moments to complete our closing survey at the end of today's event. Your feedback helps us shape the future of the program. So to get us started, on a scale from 1 to 10, how close do you feel you are to launching a business or entrepreneurial venture? Where 1 is just exploring and 5 is already building or operating a business. Any more? Okay. So welcome to entrepreneurship. While everyone is responding, I'd like to take a moment to introduce entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship exists to build community and create opportunities for SHIP members interested in entrepreneurship, innovation, and business ownership. Our efforts currently focus on 3 areas. First, community building through entrepreneurship, LinkedIn group, and online member engagement opportunities, which you can see on the QR code on the slide. Second, our virtual event programming, including monthly cafecitos focused on networking, skill development, and sharing best practices. And third, our in-person engagement at the SHIP National Convention. We're excited to continue growing entrepreneurship programming and look forward to connecting with many of you in Indianapolis in 2026. Today's discussion resonates with you. We encourage you to stay engaged with the entrepreneurship community beyond this event. Next slide. So before introducing our speaker, I'd like to share a new opportunity available to our community. Beginning July 13th, Entrepreneurship will be hosting a cohort experience around the Inventors Patent Academy's Patent Essentials course. This is a free opportunity designed for innovators, entrepreneurs, professionals, and aspiring inventors who want to better understand patents and intellectual property. Participants will complete approximately 1 hour of engagement per week, including self-paced coursework, virtual discussions, and community conversations through WhatsApp. If you ever wondered whether your idea could be protected or how patents fit into the innovation process, this is a fantastic opportunity to learn alongside other members of the SHPE community. We'll share additional information and registration details at the end of the session. Next slide. And now the reason we're all here. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Rebecca Clyde. Rebecca is the CEO of Baco AI, an accomplished entrepreneur and AI innovation leader. Prior to founding Baco, she built a successful marketing agency and spent nearly a decade commercializing technology at Intel. She holds an MBA from Arizona State, W.P. Carey School of Business, and has completed executive education through Stanford University. Rebecca has been recognized as one of Arizona's most influential women, and under her leadership, Baco AI received funding from Google for Startups for its innovative work applying generative AI in healthcare to improve patient outcomes. Today, Rebecca will share insights from her entrepreneurial journey, discuss the realities of building a startup, and help us think through one of the most important questions aspiring founders face. How do I know when I'm truly ready to take a leap into entrepreneurship? Please join me in welcoming Rebecca Clyde.
Thank you, Melissa, for that very kind introduction. It's so nice to be here with you and the SHPE team today. Let me see if I can share my screen now, just so I can go over to my slides. And thank you all for making time on this busy day. I know everybody's working and going to school. I love organizations like SHPE. When I was at Intel early in my career, I had the opportunity to participate in my local chapter and really enjoyed all of the community building that took place in that organization. So I'm so glad that all of you get to be part of that community. All right, so today the big question is, are you ready for entrepreneurship? And I saw, are you ready to take that leap? And I saw that many of you have already started. I saw lots of 2s and 3s that were put in the chat. So it looks like some people are still exploring what they want to do, and a few have already started to put together some ideas and even started the beginning process of putting together a product or an idea for your potential startup. So kudos for that. That's commendable. I'm so excited that, anytime, every day a new entrepreneur is born, I get very excited because that's really what I think to be one of the most exciting careers that anybody could have. So to tell you a little bit about myself, you're actually seeing a photo of my family and me growing up here on the screen. I grew up in a very large family, a large Hispanic family, maybe like some of you. We were mostly born in, me and most of my siblings were born in Costa Rica in Central America. But due to my father's work, we actually ended up many years in South America. So this photo that you're seeing right here was taken in Santiago, Chile. And as you can see from our attire, from our clothing, this was in the 80s. I don't know if you can tell the style of that time period, but it's funny that many of these looks are kind of coming back nowadays, which is really funny. But you would never know from this lineup which of us would end up being an entrepreneur. Maybe the 2 gentlemen, the prototypical idea would be that it would be the 2 gentlemen here on the end that had the best chance of being the entrepreneurs of our family because they were boys. But actually that ended up not being the case. Nearly everyone in this photo took a more traditional corporate or institutional career path. And the only one here who diverged from that was myself, right? This goofball here in the middle of the pack. I was neither the oldest nor the youngest, and that probably explains why I decided to be the entrepreneur, because as many middle children are, we're the overlooked ones. And so nobody's really paying attention to us, and so we end up doing our own thing, right? So that's my theory as to why I ended up being the entrepreneur in the family. But to me, this was not something that I really knew. I remember when I was young in my childhood in Chile, I was always looking to make a buck, and I would come up with little ways to earn money, little schemes to make money as a kid. I would organize birthday parties for my mom's friends and earn some money that way. I would babysit, I would teach ballet lessons. I would do anything that I knew how to do to just make a few bucks so I would have some spending money, or a few pesos really was what we were earning. A few pesos so I could have some spending money to go to the movies with my friends, or to go buy those new pair of jeans that all the girls wanted to wear. But eventually, I realized that, hey, you can make money a lot of ways. You can make money working for other people. You can make money providing a service that people want. And you can make money making a product that people want. And that is something that I was able to learn even from a very young age as a child growing up in Santiago, Chile. I later was able to come to the United States to attend the university, and I had the privilege of completing my master's of business at Arizona State University. And this was also while I was working at Intel, which is where I mentioned I spent my early career, nearly a decade of my early career, in what I call the Intel glory years. This was the time when Intel was the first company to really create a brand around the microprocessor, which is an ingredient inside a computer that nobody really understood before what even a microprocessor was. But at Intel, we branded this, we created consumer campaigns, we really talked about how that Intel microprocessor made your computer better, faster, more exciting, and allowed you to achieve your dreams, whatever those might be. And so we really kind of made the microprocessor cool and innovative and sexy, so to speak, during in a time period where all of these components were really kind of boring typically and unspoken before. So it was really exciting to be part of Intel during that time period. And after about nearly a decade of working at Intel and starting to have my own family, I decided I started to get that itch. I enjoyed working in a corporate setting, but I had a lot of ideas and a lot of things I wanted to see happen in the world. And I just realized that maybe outside of a corporate setting, I would have a better chance of seeing some of these things come to fruition. And so after giving birth to my second child, he was only a few months old. He was a little teeny tiny baby. I took the leap and, so to speak, jumped off the ledge, left the safety of a really good paying job with excellent benefits and stock options and all of the trimmings that you would want in a perfect career. And I took the plunge into the scary, unknown world of entrepreneurship. And so I had to make that choice. How long do I stay here and when do I leave to go start something new? And at that time, what I did, my first startup, my first company that I went off to build was an agency, a marketing agency. I had worked for many years marketing technology at one of the biggest technology companies in the world. And I had learned a lot. I had a big network. I had a lot of skills, and I felt confident that I would be able to commercialize those skills and offer them to other businesses, and that they would be willing to pay me and my team good money to do this. And I was not wrong. We ended up building one of the most successful digital marketing agencies in Arizona. We then expanded to Portland, Oregon, where we have a second office to this day. And with my two business partners, we built a very successful business with over 60 employees across many different states now. And clients ranging from, of course, Intel became a client. And to this day, we service clients like Databricks and other huge tech companies that you might have heard of, like Ingram Micro and many others. So very, very exciting time for us. at the agency? Well, as it would be, an entrepreneur always wants to find new things to do. And I led that business for over 10 years. And then I got the itch again um, to go off and start something new. And once the business got to like what I would call a steady state, it was no longer an infant. It didn't need a mother tending after its every need. I felt like it was time to go start something new. And a lot of changes were happening in the technology world um, that I was very excited about and that I wanted to be a part of. And so that led to my next venture, which is the one I'm working on today called Baco AI. We launched this company in 2020, right at the early days of the AI. I wouldn't even call it a boom yet. It was AI inklings at the time, right here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where we're headquartered. And we decided that we wanted to apply AI into solving some of the unique challenges that we saw in the healthcare, human services, and pharmaceutical sector, which was providing access to care, better access to care and treatment, particularly for people who are typically overlooked. To this day, my company continues to serve what I call the underserved, both as an employee and as a community. We have an 80% diverse population. Our team is 20 people that are all over the United States and Latin America. And I think one individual, he's Latino, he's Dominican, but he lives in Berlin. So he's our one kind of European individual, but he's actually of Latino origin, like the rest of us. And we are really solving some exciting problems. I'm actually at a pharmaceutical conference today called Bio, where I've been meeting with a lot of people who are creating very exciting innovations in the bio and pharma space too. So that because it's one of the sectors that we serve. To tell you a little bit about what we're doing here, we have an AI agent portfolio that serves the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry. Our products are all focused on helping to gain access to important treatment. So for example, one of our products, Accesso, is really about education for patients and healthcare providers about new modalities and new treatments that are available. We have a product called Cuidado that provides patient support solutions and care guidance for patients with chronic conditions. We have a product called Alerta that provides adverse event detection and reporting along with case management. And this is very important, especially in the pharmaceutical sector, when any kind of adverse event that is part of a clinical trial or once a product is commercialized needs to be detected and captured. And so we have a solution for that. We have another product called Aliado that really helps navigate compliant and regulated communication. As we know, in some of these sectors, there's a lot of regulation, and it's very important that everybody that's communicating with patients and healthcare providers follows those regulations. So we have tools that give our customers the ability to do that. One of the products I'm most excited about that we have currently in development and actually in testing today is called Ensayo. This is a product for clinical trial matching and referral automation. My product is right now being studied at the University of California Health System. We're helping to match patients in that UC system to clinical trials, specifically in the gynecologic oncology space. And we will be the very first AI-driven clinical trial matching solution in women's health that is clinically validated. And so that's a huge milestone for our company that we're working on achieving at this moment. And then finally, we also have a product for market intelligence called Vision that helps our customers really gain insights from all of the research that we have access to make sure that they're leveraging that research to make better decisions about where their product and solutions should go next. So that just gives you a little bit of a rundown on what we are working on every single day at Baco AI in this very, very exciting time. And here you can kind of see a glimpse into our product. What you're seeing on the left is one of our clinical trial matching products are currently deployed in the UC health system. So the clinicians and the doctors that interface with our product use it every single day to find patients and help patients match into clinical trials. It's a known problem that a lot of times patients don't know what clinical trials are available that they're suited for, and even physicians don't know what are the trials that are available for their patients. And so we're kind of like a OncoTrial Match is like a dating app for that exact scenario. that best matches those patients by analyzing the patient record, matching the patient, verifying their eligibility into that trial, and then coordinating all the enrollment steps that are necessary for that patient to best gain access to that clinical trial. And I love this solution because it helps two sides of the coin. It helps patients get better access to these trials and these life-saving treatments. And on the other side, it helps innovators, other people like yourselves, who are inventing these incredible novel therapies, but need to get these clinical trials completed in order to gain commercialization, right? They have to get through that FDA approval process. They can't do that without the clinical trial. And if they can't get enough patients into those trials, those amazing innovations never see the light of day. So I love this product in particular because it's supporting both patients and innovators at the same time. So very few products get to do those two things together. All right, so how did I go through the leap, right? One day I was much like many of you, working in a corporate job, getting a steady paycheck, knowing that, I had benefits and all those things taken care of. And I went from that to the very next day having none of those things by taking that leap. So how did I know that I was ready? And how did I know that the time was right for me to make that change? And so looking back at my entrepreneurial journey, there's a couple of things that I've noticed are all of my fellow entrepreneurs and innovators have. And number one, they love building. So you guys are engineers. All of you that are here today are already engineers. So you're builders probably by nature. It's in your DNA to build things, I imagine. And that's why you're here at this webinar today. So I think for all of you, this is something that's inherent. And so part of what every entrepreneur has is a desire to build, even when it's hard, even when the problems are hard. And I find that for me, I love chewing on the hardest problem. People always ask me, Rebecca, why did you do a startup in healthcare and pharma? That's like the hardest sector to go after. And I think it's because I like building, solving hard problems, right? If the problem is too easy, I get bored quickly. So I need a tough problem to solve. Otherwise, my brain doesn't enjoy it as much, apparently. So that's the number one. Make sure you love building and that you're always coming up with new ideas. And I'm sure many of you have notebooks full of ideas. And you're ready with them. The hard part isn't building something; it's maybe picking which of these things you're going to move forward with. But the second thing, so that's why it's not the only thing building, but there's a second thing, which is uncertainty and being able to deal with uncertainty. And the one thing I can tell you about being an entrepreneur is that nothing is certain. One of the exciting things when I was back at Intel that I got to work on that kind of gave me a glimpse into this era today was we were working on a lot of, the Moore's Law theory, right? Everything at Intel kind of drove us to this theory. And we knew that the number of transistors that microchips would double every year. And that eventually we would have enough compute available to run some of these amazing AI-enabled algorithms. So we already had predicted that the age of AI would come around this time period between 2015 and 2020 was roughly when we were predicting this time period. But we didn't, we didn't know exactly what would be the first solutions that would be enabled by AI. I had a chance to work on some really exciting things, for example, at the University of Texas, where they were trying to map the entire universe, for example. That was really exciting. We had these supercomputers that were deployed to map some of these kind of all the galaxies in the universe, right? So we thought it would be something like that. And then eventually it became people looking at genome sequencing and looking at genetics as a really exciting place. But we knew that AI would happen and we knew that it would be applied to some of the biggest problems in the world. And now it's really our opportunity to turn them into whatever that might be. But being comfortable with uncertainty, I would take a little bit of time introspectively to look at yourselves and say, what is it that you what is your level of comfort with uncertainty? Because in the world of startups, things change so quickly. Even in the world of AI today, I find that every 3 or 4 months, I have to throw something away that we've just spent a lot of time on because it's no longer relevant because something has changed and shifted completely in the environment. The third item that I've noticed that all of the greatest entrepreneurs and builders and innovators have is that they're very motivated from within. They're not waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. They're not waiting for somebody to give them a nudge to get started. They're not waiting for somebody to, say, get out of bed and get this done right now. Every great entrepreneur is motivated from within. They have something that's fueling their fire. And so I would take time, if you're here today, to think about what is that thing that is fueling your fire? What makes you jump out of bed every single day? And what will make you jump out of bed every single day? So that you don't dread Mondays, you are looking forward to Monday because you get to work on this exciting problem that you're solving. That's what a great entrepreneur always has. And so you will know when you have that great idea, and you will know when the time is right for you, when you feel that just internal drive that cannot be stopped. Even if you're sick, even if you're not feeling well, even if you have zero money in your bank account, it doesn't matter. You're going to find a way. And that's what all the great entrepreneurs always have, right? That fire burning inside of them. And maybe you're doing this for yourself. Maybe there's a problem you're solving that is personal to you or to a family member. Maybe it's something that you saw in the industry that you're working in that you really care about. Maybe it's a problem that you saw in your community that needs to be solved. But whatever that thing is, it has to give you enough firepower to last not just a day, not a week, not a month, not a year, but decades. So it needs to be something you care deeply about in order to have success. And that is something I think any entrepreneur you'll talk to will probably describe. The next thing that I have found all entrepreneurs are really good at is failing often and failing frequently. And I think everybody here has heard the story of Michael Jordan. And maybe for the younger people, hopefully everybody knows who Michael Jordan is, but Michael Jordan was one of the NBA All-Stars of all time. And he surprisingly did not make his basketball varsity team in high school. So just imagine the person who later became one of the most famous basketball players of all time didn't even make his varsity team in high school. And you know what he did when he didn't make his varsity team? He decided that his problem was that he didn't have a good like free throw and 3-pointer shoot. That those were the two things that had kept him back from getting on the team. And then he would get up really early every morning and he would go to the gym at school and he would shoot baskets, shoot 3-pointers all morning before school. And then he would do that again after school. And then he went back and tried out again. And the reality is that's exactly what the entrepreneurial journey is like. I did not get admitted into the first accelerator program I applied to, or even the second or the third. Many times I had to go and apply 2 or 3 different times before I got accepted. And a lot of the entrepreneurs I know tell a similar story. So, and it's hard. It takes a lot of humility, especially, in my case, I was used to being a straight A student in high school and college. I always got good grades. I always got, those recognitions when I was at work at Intel. I always got the awards for this and that. It wasn't common that I faced a lot of rejection in my previous life. And so one of the most humbling things of going into the startup world, especially well into my 30s, was all of a sudden getting rejected and having to experience rejection quite frequently. And from people that I thought would have been impressed by my accomplishments. They were not. Or maybe they were, but there were other people that were more impressive. And so I was not sufficiently impressive at the moment. And I hadn't fine-tuned my business plan, my idea, my proposal, my MVP enough to make the cut. And so I had to, go back and learn and figure out what it was that I had done that could have been improved upon and try again. And that is the one thing I would say as you're considering this journey into entrepreneurship, think deeply about this one item. How do you handle rejection? How do you handle failure? Are you comfortable failing? Are you comfortable being told no? Are you comfortable having to try again and again and again? And if that's something that you can tolerate, and you have the stomach for, because it really is a very uncomfortable feeling, I have to say. And even to this day, I still get rejected and fail often. I will sometimes attempt things, launch a new product or go down a path only to find that it's a dead end or that it didn't work out quite as I had expected. And so having the humility to fail and to try something else again is a really, really important aspect of entrepreneurship, that I have seen all the best entrepreneurs have the stomach and the wherewithal to do. Okay, so I see some people are still joining us. That's great. Number 5, and this one I kind of spoke to at the beginning, you're energized by solving hard problems. And I bring that up because we have to solve sometimes the hardest problems where there is a lot of constraints. As a startup founder, you're going to have, I've experienced constraints on every possible front, right? Talent constraints. Okay, we don't have a person on the team that has that skill set. So how do we accomplish something? We have financial constraints. We have less money than our competitors, or less cash in the bank, or no money at the beginning when you're starting your company. Sometimes there's zero money in the bank or very little. So how do we address this challenge without any cash outlays? Sometimes it's that we don't know the right people who can open doors for us. And so we're going to have to go find those people. Sometimes it's that we don't have even the right tools in our tool set, that we're going to have to go figure out what are even the right tools to solve those problems. Sometimes we're solving problems that have never been tackled before because they didn't even exist. Now in the age of AI, we have a whole host of new challenges that we're solving in technology that we didn't have to solve before. And so oftentimes we're addressing these for the first time. And I find that a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs and innovators out there are energized. They get excited when they come across these challenging problems. They don't get discouraged. They don't get upset. They don't get dramatic and sad and negative. They don't go negative when they run into a hard problem. They understand that this is part of the journey, and they actually get excited when there's a hard problem. And the reason is because usually on the other side of the hard problem, there's a really big reward. And what I have found is that the biggest rewards are on the other side of the biggest mountain. So if you're not willing to climb that big mountain, you're going to miss out on the great reward. So, if you're a person that only likes flat surfaces and easy trails, then entrepreneurship may not be the right the right path, right? And it's funny, I do use that analogy here as like hiking. We live in Phoenix, so we do a lot of hiking in Phoenix. And in Arizona in general, hiking is a big pastime. But I do often say, if you haven't had a chance to go on a difficult hike, try it, because it's a good proxy for seeing how you handle those really tough terrains, steep climbs and challenging scenarios, right? It's a good way to kind of modulate yourself, measure yourself, and see where you are in that in your capacity to handle and solve hard problems. The next, I would say, and these are all things you can write and talk about introspectively. So maybe write them in your journal or think about them on your next walk. How you handle rejection. I talked about failure being one. Another, of course, being rejection, which kind of go hand in hand. And actually, you can get rejected and not fail, because sometimes that's okay, right? Sometimes the rejection was actually a good thing. Maybe that was not a customer that was meant for you, or maybe that was not an investor that was meant for you. But one thing I learned was along the way was just treating rejection as a no that got me closer to a yes. And so for me, it was really about reframing rejection and not looking at it as a failure, or not looking at it as something bad or wrong that I had done. But really saying, you know what, this person, this opportunity, this door was not meant for us. But we know that there's a door. We know that there's a place that is meant for us. And if we just keep looking and keep persevering, we will find that. And this was a really important lesson for me, especially when it came to fundraising and raising capital for my company. Fundraising is traditionally hard for startups, especially hard for underrepresented founders. We have to go through a lot more rejection usually than our other counterparts. And so you start to understand that. And the reality is that there's a group of people out there that are really eager to invest in us and who are really eager to support us. We just have to find them. We're only going to find them if we kiss a lot of frogs, so to speak. So I would make a list of, over 100 or more investors that I wanted to talk to or get introduced to, and I would just work my way through them. And every no, I considered a step closer to a yes. And I actually started tracking my rejection just as much as I tracked my acceptances, because those rejections were a good metric for me to know how much closer I could get to the yeses. And so, I've come a long way in terms of my ability to handle rejection and feel comfortable with it and not let it get to me personally. It's still hard. I can't say that it's easy. I can't say that I particularly enjoy it. But I have learned that it's an important part of the entrepreneurship journey to be comfortable with rejection, to be okay with it, to learn from it, and to always take it in stride, and certainly not take it personally or to get get dramatic about it or upset, because it's just part of the job. And if we understand that, then it's a lot easier to swallow that bitter pill of rejection, which can be unpleasant at times. And I do bring that up because I think all too often entrepreneurship is glorified. We talk about all the wonderful things of entrepreneurship and how um, you know glorious and glamorous it could be, but it also has a lot of challenges. And I would say it's the ongoing rejection is one of the toughest ones for me, certainly. Um, Now, kind of speaking to this, I know I talked to you a little bit about the challenges of rejection. There is a stark reality, particularly for women of Hispanic origin. You can see here that according to ChatGPT, right, women in startups have secured only 0.4 of all venture capital funding in the United States for Latina-led startups. And these numbers are very abysmal, but I would say we cannot let these numbers bring us down. We cannot let these numbers inform us. While I share this with you just to know the reality, just to see what the reality is, I also like to have kind of like two realities in my head. This can be true, and then also the truth can exist that I can be funded. So as long as you're comfortable holding those two realities in your head and knowing that that person is out there, that fund, that supporter is out there that wants to fund your company and believes in what you're doing, then your job is just to find that person or that opportunity, right? And don't worry about all the ones that are not funding you. They can go take care of other things or support other startups. But it's about being able to hold those two truths in your head at the same time that become very important. Now, the last one that I called out here as a kind of a self-check for preparation is whether or not you care more about the mission than playing it safe. And this is really important because risk-taking is a very important part of entrepreneurship. And so always taking the safe route is not, in my opinion, the way to get to success. You're going to have to take some of those leaps into what appears to be thin air, and just trust the process. Trust that if you did your legwork, if you did your homework, and that you did the groundwork, that you will be able to advance your mission and your goal. And for many of us in the startup realm, we're tackling really important problems. We're tackling problems that need to be solved and that the world is asking for. And so believing in what that is and knowing that that mission that is more important than even me or my company is what I'm going after and trying to solve for. That is what, allows me to take those risks and allows me to go out on a limb, allows me to, take that bold step when it needs to be taken. When it feels uncomfortable, when it feels queasy in your stomach, right? And it feels like, oh no, this is a tough one, but we've got to do it. That's the ability that one has to have in order to go down this path. So as all of you are thinking about doing a startup or venturing out on your own eventually, I'll leave this up here for a second so you can see all of these points. I would think about all of this and notice that none of the things I said here are about, oh, I have an MVP, oh, I have an investor, or I already have a co-founder, right? Those are things that you will find and that will come to fruition, that are kind of like I would call process oriented steps. But it's the internal mechanisms that you have and your internal kind of compass and your internal motivators that are essential, because those you will repurpose. These are the things you will repurpose no matter where you go, no matter what problem you try to solve, no matter what IP you create. You will need these essential ingredients, to be able to achieve those things. You will find your co-founder. You will find a product that the market needs. You will find the investors that will support you. You will find the grant opportunities that will help you get started. All of those things will happen, but they'll only happen if these 7 things are inside of you and already there, because that's where everything begins, is right here with you, as the potential, founder or already the founder of your company. So for me, the mission was really what you're seeing here. It was my daughter. I have my 3rd child who has always struggled with chronic health conditions. And here you're seeing her at the Phoenix Children's Hospital when she was getting treated for an asthma condition that she has. And her respiratory illness has been a challenge for our family for a long time. And many of her health issues that have stemmed around this have been ongoing challenges for us. And what it gave me was a view into the challenges of accessing healthcare, of accessing novel treatments like clinical trials, for example, of being able to self-advocate and advocate for our children, and making sure that we had tools that were better available to make these life-saving treatments more accessible to more people. And so every time I think about, I have a hard day or I face a rejection, I think about this, like my daughter and all of the other children, and whether they're from your family or mine or other families, who are waiting for these life-saving treatments. They need these life-saving treatments. And if my product can see the light of day and can touch more organizations, can enable more families to get access, then I know that I have won, right? And that's really the end goal. And you're not hearing me talk about yes, there could be money along the way. Yes, there could be a great exit for me. Those are all wonderful things, but that's not why I do this, right? I'm doing this for a bigger reason and something that is more important. And this is the motivator, right? And I have found that all the best entrepreneurs, yeah, you'll hear some that talk about making the billions or the millions, right, that they're going after. Yeah, people talk a lot about money as a reason, but I don't truly believe that for the best entrepreneurs that money is really their motivator. There's something else. There's something else that's more important to them than money, and that's why they're really doing it. And so whatever that is for you, think about it, write it down, understand it, and let that be what drives you, because that mission will exist even if you don't, right? And somebody else and other people will want to support you. You'll find the other people that care about those same things, and then you can together as a village go solve this problem. This is my family today. You'll see my little one that was tiny in this little picture has now grown up to be a teenager here, and my other kiddos, who have all been part of my startup journey. They have traveled with me to many of my startup events and conferences. They've heard me give my talk, hundreds of times. They can probably give my talk for me if I needed them to. They can talk about my product. They know the team members in our company that are helping us build. They've been to meet, even in many cases, to customer meetings with me or to customer dinners, where I brought one of my kids as a +1. And so they've listened into these sales conversations or partner conversations that we're having. They've met my investors. And one thing to remember is that it's not just about me, it's my family, it's a journey we're all taking together. And so make sure that the people in your life are also okay with going on this journey with you because that they become, one of the most important support systems that you will need in your life and in your entrepreneurial journey. It's never a journey I think that a person can take on their own. That sounds too hard for me. So find who it is, whether it's your own biological family or maybe your family of choice, your community here at SHIP, which I think is a wonderful community. Um, find those people who will be your village along the way because they are needed. And nobody I find that most people who try to do it alone uh, really don't go as far. I think there was a saying that if you want to go if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? Go with your community. And so, this is really a marathon you're running. Entrepreneurship is a marathon. And so it's best to try to bring your team along with you, your village. And so, know who that village is, know who those people are that are going to be your support system because they're very, very important along the way. So with that, I would love to be able to answer your questions. Here's my contact information on this QR code. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. You're welcome to reach out with your questions about entrepreneurship and startups. And with that, I would love to answer your questions. I know there's some really good ones here on the meeting that some of you submitted in advance, and then perhaps some of you are able to submit right now. I'll go ahead and take your questions.
So I'll go ahead and start with the ones that were submitted first. And these might be different than what you see here on the screen. So bear with me.
Okay.
Thank you, Rebecca, for that. That was great, as usual.
Mhm.
So one of the questions that some of the registrants asked was, how can someone continue building a business while maintaining a full-time job?
I feel like it's never been more doable than now in the age of AI. Honestly, we are so lucky to have so many tools nowadays that were not available even a year ago. There's apps that can build your app, right? There's AI tools that will build your product. There's AI tools that will help you find customers. There's AI tools that will help you test your product. Um, so I think more than ever, now is a great time to do that, where you can still keep your focus on your full-time job that, maybe pays the bills. And in the meantime, start prototyping, put together a prototype of a product on one of these platforms, do some outreach to who those potential customers might be, and start to see if there's validation from the market, right? If you're getting good results and feedback from the market that's telling you that, yes, people want to buy your product or at least interested in signing up for like a wait list for your product. I've seen a lot of people even do that where they'll put together like a prototype of a product, create a landing page, and then send a bunch of emails or link, do posts about that, I'll put air quotes product because it might not even actually exist. And then they'll just sign up people on a wait list and they'll say, hey, if I can get 500 people or 1,000 people to get on that wait list, then I know that there's interest in it. And maybe you even charge $1 to get on the wait list. I mean, you could even do some things that kind of force people to have a little skin in the game. But there's a lot of ways that you can start to kind of test the waters of your product before you take that big jump of leaving your company, right? And starting that. So I know that that happens often right now.
So one other good question that was asked is about AI, because it's a very important topic right now. What are some practical ways entrepreneurs can leverage AI today without needing a large budget or technical team?
I mean, that's kind of what I was just talking about. There's some really good products out there that you can actually build your own product on, right? So a couple that I've heard that people have used successfully, one is called Love, where you can essentially build an app using AI. So you just vibe code it essentially. You can then also use Claude. I'm a big fan of Claude to help you identify who your customers might be, help you draft emails to those customers, and then help you find who that community could be. And then I've also seen a lot of really great other tools out there that, depending on who you're trying to target, you might be able to utilize. But yes, there's a wealth of products that you can use for this purpose.
So Ruben, you can take it over now.
Alrighty. If anybody else has questions, I just saw one just as I started saying that. Somebody popped in the chat. Wonderful. Thank you, Jose. So the question is, how did you know when to bring in investors or additional capital versus remaining bootstrapped and growing organically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, investors usually want to see traction. And by traction, they want to see a few customers that are either paying or willing or promising to pay. They want to see that there's a little bit of commercial promise already, versus just taking them a slide and saying, hey, I'm going to build this one day. So that's why I'm saying, like, prototype it, test it in the market, get a couple of paying customers, just using these like vibe coding tools, to show like, hey, there's a market here. There are people who want to pay for my product before you bring it to them. There's also a lot of grants that you can take advantage of to help you during that early stage development. There's hundreds of grants available in your community, in your state, in your industrial sector that you might be targeting. There's so many grants. I was able to start my company on several grants. We probably raised about $200,000 through grants, and that's how we funded a lot of our early development. And then we started going to investors once we had those grants and we had been able to secure a few customer contracts first. But because I find that investors tend to be a little bit like they want to be further down the line before they come in and start putting their money in. And look for the right kind of investors. Angel investors is usually a good place to start versus institutional investors. You kind of work your way through the angel community and angels first. And then once you have what I would call commercial traction, which is like, 10 or more contracts with high paying customers, that's when you really start going to the institutional investors. But I wouldn't start with them necessarily. I would start with more like family, friends, angel groups, professional kind of connections that you might have, getting those smaller checks first, grants too, things like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jose, for that great question. And thank you, Rebecca, for the great answer. And I do apologize because before that, Mario had put in a question and it didn't show up for me. So sorry about that, Mario. But he had mentioned how to find, so just looking for valuable feedback from users, as there's a lot of information out there, and just how to find valuable feedback. How do you know when you have to pivot with your product?
Oh, you're going to get feedback every single day. So the key is to be reaching out constantly to the people who you're targeting as your users, whether you're reaching out to them on LinkedIn or social media or through your community, right? Hopefully you're solving a problem in a group with a group of people that you have access to. And it's just about getting in front of them. Like I do LinkedIn outreach even to this day with my product constantly. Anytime we're making changes to our product or we're thinking about new capabilities in our product, I reach out, I go to industry conferences, industry events. I reach out to people on LinkedIn that have the job titles that I care about. And I say, hey, I'm working on this thing. I'd love to get your feedback. Would you be willing to meet for 10 minutes to take a look and give me your thoughts? I do that constantly. And those feedback loops are essential to be able to really understand how the others perceive your product, right? You don't want to go in very narrow-minded into saying, oh, I've solved everything. It's better to get a lot of points of view and then distill them into useful feedback and bring them back into your product.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mario, for that question. And thank you again, Rebecca, for your insight.
Of course.
We've got a little bit of time. If we've got time for another question or two, if anybody else would like to pop something in the chat.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Feel free, you have my contact information. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. If any questions come up afterward, I'd be happy. And it looks like Jocelyn maybe has a question.
Yes, hi, Rebecca. Nice to meet you. I'm Jocelyn Rios.
Hi.
I believe I'm a level 1. I just started my small business a year ago, doing floral arrangements. My question is more about investors. You mentioned angel investors. How do I look more into like what is the right type of investor for me? Because I'm not doing like tech startup. I'm doing like brick and mortar. I want to do brick and mortar and like weddings and stuff.
Sure. I think for a lot of small business categories like yours, you're going to find some opportunities in the economic development organizations of your town or city. So every city, every state has an economic development agency, and they have grants, funds, and even some of these investors that want to invest in that sector of small business. So where are you based? What city?
I'm based in Metro Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Atlanta has a really thriving community. I've actually spent some time there. So if you just look up Atlanta economic development agencies, you'll see at least 10 or 20 that are based. You're going to have Greater Atlanta Chamber of Commerce and other economic development agencies that are specific to the city, to towns, to the state, to the county, and then you'll also have some to the sectors. So you might have some that are focused just on small business, um, kind of like what I call main street shops, like what you would be essentially. There's also others that are focused on maybe underrepresented founders in your community, small business initiatives. There's an organization called LIST. I can send that to Melissa afterward. They do $10,000 prizes. They're actually sponsored by Verizon. A lot of local businesses that might be in your ecosystem will also provide grants and investment opportunities, especially if they're in what I would call the ecosystem of your category as well.
So do you think it's better to start with cold emailing or to just show up to Chamber of Commerce meetings, like for Cobb County, DeKalb
I'd say
County?
both. It always helps they are always going to give preference to the people they've met personally. So I would say go to the chamber meetings, go get involved in your local business community and your startup and entrepreneurial communities locally, because that's where you're going to get plugged into all those awesome resources.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Rebecca. Thank you for
Yeah,
making time for
list,
us today. I've learned so
of
much.
course. LISC is the resource you want to find locally, and they're always giving away money. In fact, they were just doing a $10,000 prize, and they do it in all the major communities, metro areas, which you're a part of a great metro area that does a lot of support for the startup world.
So it's 5 o'clock, so we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you, Rebecca, for sharing
Thank
your
you.
time. That was great. And we will
My
forward
pleasure.
any additional questions that come through after. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And please join us with our other activities. If you did not see the links, okay, I guess Ruben is putting them on, which is great. He's putting them on the chat. So get into our LinkedIn community, participate in more webinars and the cafecitos as well. And also at the conference, we will have some sessions. So thank you so much for participating and have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.